Most people believe income is progress. From the moment you enter adulthood, life becomes a simple equation: earn more, live better. A higher salary feels like proof that you are moving forward. Promotions feel like validation. Each raise appears to confirm that your strategy is working. And for a while, it does. Your lifestyle improves. Stress decreases slightly. You gain comfort, predictability, and structure. Everything signals stability. But beneath that stability, something else begins to form. Something almost invisible: dependence. Because income creates a powerful illusion. It makes survival feel solved. When money arrives regularly, urgency disappears. You stop questioning the system producing it. You stop asking whether progress is permanent or simply temporary comfort. And that is where the income game quietly begins. The income game is not about poverty or wealth. It is about direction. It trains you to measure success by how much you earn rather than by how independent you become. At first, the difference seems insignificant. After all, earning more money feels rational, responsible, safe. But safety has a hidden cost. It narrows attention. When income becomes the primary objective, decisions start optimizing for stability instead of leverage. You choose predictable paths. You avoid uncertainty. You prioritize reliability over possibility. You begin building a life designed to protect income rather than expand freedom. And slowly, without noticing, your financial progress becomes linear. Each month starts from zero again. You work, you earn, you spend, you repeat. The system feels productive because movement never stops. Yet despite constant effort, independence remains distant. This is the first paradox of the income game. Effort increases, but autonomy does not. The reason is simple but rarely explained. Income rewards activity, not ownership. Activity must be repeated endlessly. Ownership compounds. But society trains almost everyone to optimize activity. Schools reward completion of tasks. Jobs reward performance within structure. Promotions reward reliability. Every stage reinforces the same lesson: do more, perform better, stay consistent. And consistency becomes identity. You begin describing yourself through your role, your title, your productivity. Work stops being something you do and becomes something you are. This feels normal because everyone around you is playing the same game. Friends compare salaries. Colleagues compare promotions. Entire conversations revolve around career progression, as if income growth automatically equals life progress. But the income game contains a hidden ceiling. No matter how skilled you become, income tied directly to effort always has limits. Limits of time, energy, attention, and eventually age. You can increase efficiency. You can negotiate higher pay. You can work longer hours. But the structure itself remains unchanged. You are still exchanging time for stability. And stability, while comforting, is fragile. Because income depends on conditions you do not fully control. Markets change. Industries evolve. Companies restructure. Technology replaces tasks once considered irreplaceable. None of these events require personal failure to occur. Yet when income is your primary engine, external change becomes personal risk. This creates the second illusion of the income game: control. A steady paycheck feels like certainty, but certainty exists only as long as the system continues operating exactly as expected. Most people do not notice this vulnerability because change happens gradually. Skills remain useful long enough to feel permanent. Routines become familiar enough to feel safe. Human psychology adapts quickly to predictability. What begins as opportunity slowly becomes dependency, and dependency changes behavior in subtle ways. You hesitate before taking risks. You delay experimentation. Ideas that once felt exciting begin to feel irresponsible. Security becomes something to protect rather than something to outgrow. Over time, ambition adjusts to match comfort. Dreams become smaller, not because ability disappeared, but because stability feels too valuable to threaten. The income game rewards this mindset perfectly. It encourages optimization instead of transformation. You learn how to perform better inside the system rather than how to build outside it. And for years, this strategy appears successful. Income rises, responsibilities increase. Life looks stable from the outside, but internally, something feels unresolved. Progress never feels complete. No matter how much income grows, freedom always seems one promotion away, one raise away, one future milestone away. The finish line keeps moving, because the income game was never designed to end. It is designed to continue. And the longer you play it, the harder it becomes to imagine another way. Many intelligent people remain here indefinitely, not because they lack ambition, but because they are winning at the wrong objective. They become exceptionally good at maintaining income, but maintenance and independence are not the same thing. The realization usually begins quietly. You notice people whose lives operate differently. They are not always working more. They are not always more talented. Yet their decisions seem less constrained by immediate financial pressure. They can wait longer, choose differently, walk away when necessary. At first, it looks like luck, but luck rarely repeats consistently. Eventually, a deeper question appears. What game are they playing that produces a different outcome? And that question marks the first moment someone begins to see beyond income itself. Because there is another game running alongside the one most people know, a quieter game. One where progress is not measured by how much money arrives each month, but by how little survival depends on it. And once you begin to sense that difference, the rules you followed for years start to look very different. Once you begin to recognize that income and independence are not the same thing, another question naturally follows. If the income game has limits, why do so many intelligent people remain trapped inside it? The answer has very little to do with money. It has everything to do with psychology. The income game is powerful because it rewards you immediately. Every month provides feedback. Effort produces visible results. Work completed leads to payment received. The cause and effect relationship feels clear and satisfying. Humans are deeply wired to repeat behaviors that deliver predictable rewards. And income delivers one of the strongest rewards possible: certainty. Certainty removes fear. You know when money arrives. You know how bills will be paid. You know what tomorrow looks like. This predictability calms the brain, and a calm brain stops searching for alternatives. This creates what could be called the comfort loop. You work to gain stability. Stability reduces anxiety. Reduced anxiety removes urgency. Without urgency, exploration disappears. And without exploration, nothing fundamentally changes. The system does not need to trap you. You stay voluntarily, because leaving certainty feels irrational, even when staying creates long-term risk. This is why many highly intelligent people struggle to escape the income game. Intelligence improves optimization, not necessarily direction. Smart individuals become better at solving problems inside existing structures. They increase efficiency. They improve performance. They learn how to win promotions, negotiate salaries, and manage responsibilities effectively. But optimization inside a structure strengthens attachment to it. The better you become at earning income, the harder it feels to step away from relying on it. Success becomes gravity. Each achievement adds weight, higher expenses, greater expectations, stronger identity tied to performance. Over time, your life adjusts to match your earnings. Lifestyle expands quietly, not through dramatic luxury, but through small upgrades that feel reasonable. Better housing, greater convenience, subscriptions, services, habits that slowly redefine what normal costs. None of these changes feel dangerous individually. Together, they create dependence. Your income no longer represents growth, it represents maintenance. You are not earning to move forward, you are earning to remain where you are. This is the hidden turning point of the income game. The moment income becomes necessary to sustain identity, freedom begins shrinking, because decisions start filtering through one question: what happens if the paycheck stops? Opportunities that involve uncertainty suddenly feel threatening. New directions feel irresponsible. Even curiosity begins to feel risky. Fear disguises itself as practicality. You tell yourself you are being realistic, responsible, mature, but often what feels like responsibility is simply adaptation to dependency. The income game quietly replaces long-term thinking with short-term preservation. You stop asking how to build leverage and start asking how to reduce risk. You prioritize stability over growth, predictability over possibility. And ironically, this behavior increases long-term vulnerability, because the modern economy rewards adaptability far more than loyalty. Industries evolve faster than careers were originally designed to handle. Technology compresses timelines. Skills that once lasted decades now change within years. Yet the income game encourages specialization so deep that flexibility weakens. You become excellent at one environment. Outside that environment, confidence fades. This creates another psychological barrier: perceived limitation. People begin believing they cannot operate independently, not because it is true, but because they have not practiced it in years. capability declines through disuse, and belief follows experience. If all income has always come from one source, the idea of multiple sources feels unrealistic. Independence appears reserved for entrepreneurs, investors, or people with extraordinary talent. But the real difference is rarely talent. It is exposure to leverage. Leverage changes how effort behaves. In the income game, effort produces results once. You work today, you are paid today, and tomorrow the cycle resets. In the wealth game, effort accumulates. Work done once can continue producing outcomes repeatedly. At first, this difference feels abstract, but over time, it becomes decisive. Imagine two people working equally hard. One directs all effort toward increasing income. The other allocates part of their effort toward building systems that continue functioning without constant supervision. Early results look similar. Years later, they diverge dramatically. One must continue running to maintain progress. The other begins moving forward even while resting. This is why the wealth game often appears unfair. The effort is not always visible when results finally appear. Observers see the outcome but miss the years of invisible construction that preceded it, and invisibility creates doubt. Many people abandon leverage too early because early stages feel inefficient compared to predictable income. Progress is slow. Rewards are delayed. External validation is minimal. The income game feels faster, but speed and direction are not the same thing. Running quickly in a circle still leads back to the starting point. The wealth game requires tolerating a period where progress looks smaller before it becomes larger. This phase feels uncomfortable because comparison never stops. Friends advance in careers, salaries increase, social signals suggest momentum elsewhere. Meanwhile, leverage grows quietly. No applause, no recognition, often no immediate proof. Only gradual change beneath the surface. And this is where most players return to the income game, not because it is better, but because it feels safer. Safety, however, can be deceptive, because true risk is not uncertainty. True risk is dependence without alternatives. The income game teaches you how to survive inside a system. The wealth game teaches you how to remain stable even when systems change. And the difference between those two outcomes only becomes visible with time. At some point, the realization becomes unavoidable. The problem was never income itself. Income is useful. It provides stability, structure, and opportunity. For many people, it is the first step toward independence. The problem begins when income stops being a tool and becomes the destination. Because destinations create permanence, and permanence creates blindness. When income becomes the primary measure of progress, life turns into a continuous cycle of maintenance. Each decision protects what already exists instead of expanding what could exist. You begin managing stability instead of building freedom. This shift happens slowly enough that it rarely feels like a mistake. In fact, it often looks like success. Responsibilities increase, trust grows, your role becomes more important, others rely on you. Externally, everything appears to improve. Internally, flexibility decreases. The calendar fills, commitments multiply. Time becomes scheduled months in advance. The ability to change direction, once effortless, becomes complicated, and complexity discourages change. The income game quietly replaces choice with obligation. You wake up not deciding what to build, but maintaining what already depends on you. Each month reinforces the same structure. Each year strengthens the same pattern. Nothing feels wrong, until one day you notice something unexpected. Progress feels repetitive. The goals that once motivated you now feel like extensions of the same cycle. Another raise looks similar to the last one. Another promotion changes status but not freedom. You begin sensing that movement continues, but distance traveled feels small. This is the moment awareness deepens. You realize the income game was designed for continuity, not escape. Its purpose is stability, reliable participation inside systems that require consistency to function. And stability is valuable, but only when balanced with independence. Without independence, stability becomes fragile. Because true security is not guaranteed income. True security is adaptability, the ability to generate value under changing conditions, the ability to move when circumstances shift, the ability to continue forward even when one structure disappears. People who eventually step beyond the income game do not suddenly reject work. They change how they relate to it. Work stops being survival. It becomes strategy. Instead of asking, "How can I earn more?" they begin asking, How can effort continue working after today ends? That question quietly transforms decisions. Time is allocated differently. Some energy maintains current stability. Some energy builds future flexibility. Small experiments begin often unnoticed by others. Nothing dramatic happens at first. In fact, life may look almost identical from the outside, but internally, something changes. Pressure decreases, because dependence decreases. Options begin to appear, and options alter psychology more than money ever could. When you know your life does not rely entirely on one outcome, fear loses intensity. Decisions become calmer. Risk becomes measurable instead of terrifying. You stop reacting. You start positioning. Positioning is the hidden skill of the wealth game. It is not about constant action. It is about placing effort where time amplifies results instead of resetting them. Many people misunderstand this transition. They imagine freedom as sudden escape, quitting a job, abandoning structure, or making dramatic changes overnight. In reality, the shift is gradual. Freedom grows quietly, long before it becomes visible. A skill that scales beyond location. An investment that compounds slowly. A system that functions without constant supervision. Each piece alone seems small. Together, they change the architecture of life. And architecture determines outcomes more than effort ever will, because effort has limits. Structure does not. Over time, another realization emerges, perhaps the most important one. The goal was never to stop working. Humans are built to create, solve problems, and contribute. Meaning often comes from effort itself. The goal was to remove fragility, to ensure effort builds something lasting instead of something temporary. When effort accumulates rather than resets, work feels different. Urgency fades, decisions expand. You are no longer protecting a single source of stability. You are building resilience. Resilience changes how uncertainty feels. Instead of fear, uncertainty begins to look like possibility. Change becomes less threatening because adaptation already exists. You are no longer dependent on permission from a single system to continue moving forward. And that is when the income game loses its power. Not because income disappears, but because income becomes optional rather than essential. The difference is subtle but profound. One life depends on continuation. The other adapts to change. From the outside, both may look similar. Both people work, both earn, both participate in society. But internally, one is maintaining stability. The other is steering direction. Most people spend years trying to win faster inside the income game, believing speed alone will eventually create freedom. Very few step back and question whether the game itself leads where they want to go. Yet the moment you begin asking that question, perspective shifts permanently. You stop measuring success by how busy you are. You start measuring it by how replaceable effort becomes. You stop chasing income alone. You begin building independence quietly alongside it. And eventually, without a dramatic turning point, the outcome changes. Not overnight, not through luck, but through small decisions repeated consistently. Decisions that prioritize leverage over activity, adaptability over comfort, ownership over dependency. The income game never looked dangerous because it felt safe. But safety without flexibility is temporary. And the people who eventually move beyond average outcomes are not those who worked the hardest, but those who realized early enough that earning more was never the same as becoming free. Because the real objective was never income, it was choice. And the moment choice expands, the game changes completely.